Ravens fan Diontae Johnson's situation is getting worse and worse, and he might be taking his last steps in the NFL. After a season full of controversy, trades, and backstage problems, the receiver now faces an entirely uncertain future in the league. What started as a promising year turned into a real nightmare, with decisions that may have completely ruined his career. But is there still a chance for recovery? What led such a talented player to be cut so many times in such a short time? And more importantly, will any team still want to give him one last shot? Stay until the end because these answers might surprise you. Go Ravens! Diontae Johnson can still play in the NFL, but his situation has completely changed. Instead of looking for a multi-million-dollar contract, he now has to accept a deal for the minimum value, with bonuses depending on his on-field performance. In other words, no team wants to make a big bet on him, but there is still a chance that someone will give him one last opportunity. The problem is that, after such a turbulent year, teams are cautious. If he wants to stay in the league, Johnson will need to prove he's worth it, both on and off the field. And that won't be easy because his image is seriously damaged. No team wants a player who might become a headache in the locker room, and Johnson became exactly that in 2024. He's not being discarded because of a lack of talent, but because of the chaos he brought to every team he joined. If he doesn't change his attitude, it won't matter how much skill he has. Teams will prefer to invest in someone more reliable. This could be his last chance to rebuild his career. The real question is whether he's willing to accept this new reality. Johnson has already shown he struggles when he's not the center of attention, and that's a big issue. No franchise wants a receiver who complains every time he doesn't get the ball. If he doesn't realize his value has dropped and that he needs to earn his place again, he might end up without a team. Now, he can no longer act like a star because no one sees him that way anymore. And all of this is a result of a chaotic season where he couldn't settle anywhere. Johnson went through 4 different teams in 2024, was traded, suspended, cut, and even released during the playoffs for inappropriate behavior. This track record makes any team think twice before signing him, and he'll only get a new opportunity if he's willing to change. This series of moves shows just how big a problem he created for himself. What happened to Diontae Johnson in 2024 was a true disaster. He started the year with the Steelers, was traded to the Panthers before the season began, and just a few months later, he was sent to the Ravens. In Baltimore, it seemed like he might find a fresh start, but everything fell apart when he refused to enter the game because he was unhappy with his role. The decision was so serious that the team decided to suspend him and shortly after cut him from the roster. In a matter of months, Johnson went from a promising trade to an unexpected release. But the confusion didn't stop there. As soon as the Ravens cut him, the Houston Texans decided to give him a chance, believing he could be a useful piece in their offense. However, the problem repeated itself. Once again, Johnson was frustrated with the lack of opportunities, and even after a team win, he expressed dissatisfaction with his role. The result was inevitable. He was cut again, this time during the playoffs, something extremely rare in the NFL. Instead of helping the team fight for the Super Bowl, he left a terrible impression. The situation reached such a critical point that, by the end of the season, the Ravens decided to re-sign him, but not because they believed in him, but to try to recover a compensatory draft pick. In other words, he wasn't re-signed for his talent or potential, but as part of a strategic move. This shows just how badly his image had deteriorated over the year. No team saw him as a reliable player anymore, just a disposable asset in the NFL market. Going through 4 different teams in 1 year would already be bad enough, but being cut twice in a few months made the situation even worse. Johnson didn't just lose his place in the league, he also destroyed his market value. And this became even more evident when he was discarded even in the crucial moments of the season. If there's one thing that weighs against Diontae Johnson, it's not just his on-field performance, but how he behaves off of it. According to reports, he's not a bad guy to deal with in daily life, but he has serious difficulties in controlling his emotion. When things don't go the way he wants, he gets frustrated and makes it obvious, which ends up hurting the team. In the NFL, where teamwork is key, this kind of behavior can quickly wear down any coach's patience. The problem is that Johnson demonstrated this several times throughout 2024. Whether refusing to play for the Ravens or being upset even after a win with the Texans. He made it clear he couldn't accept a smaller role on a team. This is a huge red flag for any franchise because no one wants a player who might destabilize the locker room. And after being cut twice for the same reason, it's hard to believe he'll change quickly. The NFL is full of examples of talented players who lost their spots because of their personality. If Johnson doesn't change his mindset, he could end up going down that same path. The talent is still there, but if he doesn't learn to handle adversity, teams will prefer to invest in players who are easier to manage, especially for a receiver who needs to maintain a good relationship with the quarterback and coaching staff to get opportunities on the field. If he wants to turn this image around, he'll need to prove he's willing to change. The question is whether any team still has the patience to wait for that change. And this uncertainty makes his next chance in the league even more unpredictable. All right, we're past the halfway point of the video, but I noticed you haven't liked the video yet. It's really important so that YouTube continues to recommend my content to you, and I'll keep bringing you more updates. So, go ahead, hit the like button, it's free. Thanks, and let's continue. Even putting aside the controversies, Diontae Johnson's production in 2024 was far below expectation. He played 12 games across the Panthers, Ravens, and Texans, but his numbers were modest, just 33 receptions on 67 targets, totaling 375 yards and 3 touchdowns. For a player who, in previous years, had seasons with over 1,000 yards, this decline was significant. Moreover, his catch percentage was low, showing that he couldn't become a reliable piece of the offense for any of the teams he played for. One of the reasons for this weak performance was the constant team changes. It's hard for any player to maintain good production when they can't settle with one team and have to learn new systems all the time. But in Johnson's case, this issue was worsened by his own behavior. Not only did he switch teams several times, but he also lost opportunities due to his attitude. When a player starts losing playing time, it's even harder to achieve big numbers. Another factor that worked against him was the lack of chemistry with the quarterbacks on the teams he played for. In Baltimore, for example, he never managed to build a connection with Lamar Jackson. With the Texans, his role was so small that he didn't even have time to develop any rapport with C.J. Stroud. This further emphasizes that he couldn't adapt to the offensive systems, and worse, the teams didn't miss him. If he were a key player, the teams would have done everything to keep him. With such low numbers and a season full of controversies, it's hard for Johnson to argue that he deserves a big contract. He'll have to accept a secondary role, produce quietly, and rebuild his reputation on the field. But for that to happen, he first needs to find a team willing to give him a chance. So, what happens now with Diontae Johnson? He still has the talent to play in the league, but the path to staying in the NFL has become much more difficult. With his reputation tarnished and numbers below expectations, he can no longer demand large contracts or a prominent role in an offense. If he wants to keep playing, he'll have to accept a low-value contract and prove on the field that he can still be useful. And more than that, he will need to show that he can be a reliable player, both on and off the field. The question is, will any team want to take that risk? Right now, it seems unlikely that he will receive offers from competitive teams. The most probable scenario is that he will sign with a rebuilding team in need of a cheap receiver to fill out their roster. Even so, there will be no guarantees. If he continues to show the same behavior problems, he could be cut again before the season even starts. If Johnson wants to turn things around, he needs to see the situation as a wake-up call. He has already wasted opportunities with big teams, and now he's playing for his NFL future. No matter how much talent he has, if he continues to be a problem off the field, no team will want to keep him. The NFL has many young players coming in, and if he doesn't change, he may quickly run out of space much sooner than he thinks. His future is still uncertain, but one thing is clear: this is his last big opportunity. If he doesn't seize it, he may never step on an NFL field as a player again. Diontae Johnson went from a promising receiver to a player no one seems willing to keep for long. His behavior, both on and off the field, turned what could have been a big contract into a series of releases and wasted opportunities. Now, with a cold market and only minimum offers on the table, his future in the NFL is more uncertain than ever. Do you think any team will take a chance on him for the next season? Or has Johnson burned all his bridges? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates on the Ravens.